Hello and welcome to another episode of Second Wind with me, Matty B. Now if there's one thing that most of us can agree on, it's that the Nazis are hands down the best enemies in everything. Being of course a very real people with a very frightening political agenda means that 100% of every sane person in the world hates them. Everyone hates the Nazis and that's why it's okay to kill them. There are countless games, films, books, TV show episodes where the Axis are the bad guys. It's the greatest gift the Third Reich ever gave to the world, a universal enemy that everyone can hate. The iconography, the uniform, the goose stepping, it's all just so quintessentially evil. We only need to glance at an SS stormtrooper to know immediately that he's a bad guy. Step in Wolfenstein. At 30-something years old, Wolfenstein is the first and the oldest FPS franchise out there. Hell, it's one of the oldest games franchises still going, and we're all getting ready for the newest instalment. Join me as we look back over a decade and take a look at the best game in the series so far, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Looking back to the very early 2000s, the modern FPS genre was still in its infancy. Games like Deus Ex were showing that good stories can be told in the format, whereas Unreal Tournament and Tribes 2 were concentrating on building a very shaky online scene. When Return to Castle Wolfenstein hit in 2001, the masses were ready for it, and the seemingly bottomless appreciation for FPSs, combined with the endemic hatred of all things Nazi, we had a game that really couldn't have failed. Have you ever noticed how well Nazis and the occult fit hand in hand? I'm not entirely sure where this trope came from, but it appears to be decades old. Weird war fiction exists in role-playing games, novels, and a ton of other entertainment media, and it's a perfect fit. We've already established that the Axis powers are evil, so why not bang zombies, werewolves, human experimentation and black magic into the mix? The single player story is, as I mentioned earlier, classic World War II schlock with plenty of homages to Where Eagles Dare and other good war flicks. We play series stalwart BJ Blazkowicz as he blasts his way through 27 levels of biomechanical zombie super soldiers and undead monsters. BJ is a classic example of the FPS silent protagonist. The man doesn't utter a single word as he's shot, blown up, stabbed, gassed or whatever else across his journey. The old DOS games had technical reasons for not including dialogue, but in 2001 I think the only reason Grey Matter chose that route was for posterity. Where Duke Nukem wouldn't shut up, BJ is the silent, brooding Nazi killer that we deserve. At its heart, the game is a run and gun shooter, as close to a pure shooter as you're likely to get from this era, with a few stealth segments shoehorned in, which was the style at the time. Most of the joy to be taken from this game is in the tense gunfights and the all-out action the game offers. Whilst the AI hasn't aged that well, it's refreshing to see guards run back from grenades or take cover without flailing around in circles or blowing themselves up. The Quake 3 Arena engine was an impressive one for character animation, and the system used a per vertex animation system as opposed to skeletal animation, and it utilised multi-part meshes rather than one contiguous mesh for character models. This meant that in the early 2000s a much greater degree of control could be had over the different parts of the characters' bodies, leading to a much smoother and better looking result. You need to remember that the tech was in its infancy here. These developments may be commonplace now and, well, in fact in most cases they've been superseded, but even so, a short time ago this was groundbreaking tech, even if the plot was not. The locations, the lighting, the incredible sound design all came together and made a game that was steeped in atmosphere, and it put the willies up a generation of gamers. As a fairly common theme on here, it wasn't long before the whole Wolfenstein hype faded. After Return failed to get the return expected, it was another 8 years before Raven released a direct sequel. And after about 100,000 units of that sold over all platforms, Activision all but closed the lid on Wolfenstein. It seems that you can't sell a game on the bad guys alone anymore. People expect a little something extra for their 45 quid. Whether it works or not doesn't reduce the fact that Return to Castle Wolfenstein is the definitive supernatural Weird War II FPS, and this is a game that you should play. The game's available on Steam for 6 quid and probably even less on physical format from your favourite online stores. If you want to be spooked silly and shoot a few Nazi zombies, there really is only one game for you. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you all soon for another episode of Second Wind.